This might be the most important video I've ever made. I'm going to explain to you the way that gyms try to take your money for services that they know aren't actually worth it. I know their methods. I've used their methods. I was trained in their methods. I worked as a personal trainer at two different gyms. The first one was a large corporate gym. The second one was a smaller local gym. At that small local gym, I did eventually become manager as well. And both of these contexts made use of different but equally predatory, deceptive, and exploitive tactics to squeeze as much value out of regular people who are just there looking to do something for their health and fitness. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to spot these tactics yourself and hopefully, as a result, better protect yourself from them. I'll get into the way they get people in the door, the marketing, the sales tactics in a future video, but for now, we're just going to focus on the personal training side. So one thing that you should probably know, just to offer some context of everything I'm about to get into, these four tactics, is the dealership model that a lot of these gyms use. By which I mean that gyms big and small will often offer commission to any member of staff that makes a sale. Sell a membership? That's a commission. You sell a personal training contract, that's an even bigger commission. Now, when I worked at a big gym, our hourly pay, basically our per session pay, added up to about 40% of what the client was paying for the service. 50% was going straight to the gym, with that remaining 10% going to whoever sold that package of sessions. So as the trainer, getting that commission was a real big deal.
Second prize, a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired.
The other thing I really just want to make clear here is that while they're often extracting value, they're offering less than you would expect. Do you know what it takes to become a personal trainer? Deciding that you are one. The first gym I worked for, towards the end of my time there, they hired a whole new wave of, I think, 5 personal trainers. And some of them were anticipating eagerly the pay bump they would get once they became certified. They had no credentials, no formal education necessarily. They just were dudes who liked to lift. And you know, that's definitely a good starting point, but for the prices that the clients are paying, it's not great. And I saw some heinous things there. I saw weird circus trick training with Bozu balls and exercise balls that straight up put people in danger of getting a head injury if they slipped and fell. I saw one of the new trainers having someone do ball slams one-legged on a jumping box. Why? So what skills were they hiring based on, if not their actual ability to train clients? Sales. No joke. This was covered in my job interview. Yes, we talked a little bit about lifting and training. I demonstrated how to cue for a deadlift using a wooden dowel. But we also spent a great deal of time role-playing that free session where you're sitting down with someone and talking about training packages. And fair enough, that is in the gym's interest to make sure that their hired trainers can actually sell training. There's a really valuable quote from coachdonovan.ca I'm going to use in its entirety here because I think he summarizes this brilliantly. At most franchised or commercial gyms, the quality of the trainers is secondary to their ability to make sales. That's why you'll find a lot of jocks and high school kids with entry-level personal training certifications in these environments. With little education and experience, they're easy to groom and control. That last part is, I think, the part that's really important to keep in mind, because they want you to be selling training and keeping clients hooked in a way that is good for the gym, not necessarily the way that's good for the client. Listen to me very carefully. Do not take the gym up on the free personal training session unless you are willing to seriously consider buying personal training, because you are going to get hit with the sales pitch, and the session itself is probably not going to be what you hope it's going to be. The personal training staff of the gym are instructed by management on the specific tactics to use in that free session to take someone who probably isn't interested in personal training at all and get them to feel as much pressure as possible to sign a 6-month, 2 to 3 times a week contract worth thousands of dollars. That's a pretty miraculous sales turnaround if you're able to close that. How did we achieve these things? How did we get people to sign on the line that is dotted, even if they didn't necessarily want to in the first place? Number one, create a knowledge gap. I've said it before and I will repeat it often. If you don't understand what your trainer is saying, ask more questions. We are instructed often and emphatically by various levels of management to dazzle new members with use of as much jargon as we possibly can. An example that I encountered directly with this was in a virtual meeting where a presenter explained that we should use the names of muscles that the client might not be familiar with as a way of showing what they're overlooking in their training at the moment. The specific muscle he offered as an example was the sternocleidomastoid. The sternocleidomastoid plays a little bit of a role in your neck's ability to do this and this, but its main function is just elevating the rib cage when you're breathing. It's an involuntary action. You don't train the sternocleidomastoid. Nobody trains the sternocleidomastoid. But that wasn't what he was saying. He was just telling us to flash our knowledge at people, to make them feel like there was so much more to this than they thought, and that they need our help to navigate this. Number two, insecurity. So assessments are bullshit, at least the types of assessments that we are educated in. When I run a free intro session with someone, we're mostly going to have a conversation for the first chunk of it. I will ask you questions about your goals, your limitations, preferences, and your previous attempts to achieve those goals. And after that, we will try out a few exercises, basically a variation of a squat, a push, a pull, and a hinge to see what suits you at your current abilities. I'm not looking for flaws. I'm just looking for a baseline to know what we're starting with. Unfortunately, that is not the industry norm. The industry norm is a series of arbitrary tests, mostly focused on people's mobility, that will never be heard from again once you buy the training package. I guarantee you, if your trainer has you do like an overhead squat test as part of your assessment, you're never testing that again. It's not gonna come back up. Now, of course, the exception to that rule would be if you're planning on training things like the snatch and the overhead squat. If you're actually planning on doing these exercises, yes, of course, you need to know if you can overhead squat or not. But for someone who is just looking to get in general shape, I'm not gonna have you do those exercises, so there's no reason for me to test your ability to do it. But it's very, very hard for most people to do it. So what is the purpose of this test in this context? It's to make you feel like there is something wrong with your body. These postural assessments, these gait assessments, being like, oh, you walk wrong. You don't walk wrong. Are you walking or not? I'm blowing at my gain here. I hope this audio sounds all right. Oh, your posture is shit. You have upper crossed syndrome. You have lower crossed syndrome. You have lordosis. Your posture is shit. You're shit. And if you don't train with me, you're going to get injured.
Don't lift weights, because you will
Get injured.
and die.
We're also told to make people sweat in that first session. There isn't a good reason to do that if you have the ability to demonstrate value some other way. Anyone can make you sweat. 50 burpees, go. There you go. There's your intro session. See how out of shape you are? I guess you need personal training. But why do you need my personal training? What am I going to be offering you apart from the ability to yell at you? Anyone can do that. Why are you paying me $100 a session for the privilege? Number three, shame. Do you have kids? Do you still want to be around for them in 10 years? This is the type of language that we were told to use, the way we were told to talk to people. Someone who already bought a gym membership, in a lot of these cases, with the intent of improving their health, and we're just going straight for the jugular like that? Because, let's face facts, if you're fat and out of shape, not only are you ugly, that's a given, am I right? But you're also irresponsible. You're a bad parent for being fat. Fuck you, pay me. And number four, literal trickery. So all these things aside, my partner and I also have our own stories of clients who were literally tricked into signing personal training agreements. For me, It was a 15-year-old boy. He was very sedentary. He was very uncoordinated. Now, this boy was the son of a single mother who didn't really speak English. When I was negotiating with her over options, he had bought sort of a small pack of discounted training sessions with me, and when those were over, we were talking about what we could do long term. I had to use, well, we both had to use her son, this 15-year-old, as the interpreter in these conversations, which already is a very uncomfortable position to put him in because he clearly really wanted this. And the mom is having to explain to me through him that she can't really afford it. Even when I proposed 2 or 3 sessions just to show him a basic routine on top of the skills that I'd already taught him, financially, she just reached a point where she had to explain that that wasn't going to work. And I respect that. What I offer is, unfortunately, a luxury service in that context. It sucks. I want to be able to offer to more people. It's part of why I do this. The gym's assistant manager was the one who sold that original package of training sessions that got me in touch with this client. And I mentioned to him that this was kind of how it was ending. Now, he did speak the same language as the mom. And when he learned this, he said he would reach out to her. One day, he gave me good news. She'd signed a 6-month contract for 2 sessions a week for her son. How did that happen? To be honest, I'm never going to know. Eventually, the automatic payments coming out of her account for his sessions began to bounce. The debt counter on his account began racking up. The son asked me if I could find a way to cancel this contract to get the family out of this. I tried talking to my manager, and he insisted it was the mother's responsibility to talk to the gym and figure this out. And meanwhile, that counter just kept going up. And then there's my partner's experience with another client that she met there, which we will get into right now.
My name is Raven. I am a personal trainer slash strength coach. So I met this client. We're gonna call her Jennifer. Actually, in the middle of a session that I was running, one of the salesmen, we'll call him Ralph, interrupted me, asking me really quickly, kind of frantically, like, "Do you want a new client? Do you want someone for a year? I think she'll be a really good fit for you." And I said, "Oh, sure. Why not? Of course." And he said, "Well, you have to come downstairs. Now you have to meet her." This was in like the first maybe month or two of me working at the gym. So I was very hungry for clients. And I ended up going downstairs and meeting her very quickly. Or maybe he brought her upstairs to say hi or something like that. It was a very fast exchange. Clearly, he was in a rush. I was in a rush because I was already in the middle of working with someone. So this was all super brief, but I got her phone number and we set up a time to start working together, start our sessions. So she purchased the PTS package as well as a year of training. And she signed the contract, I think that day, if not the next day, something very quickly. And we had been working together for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. She didn't use all of the sessions at the pace that the gym wanted her to, so it lasted a little bit longer than 2 weeks. And by the time that 2 week period had run out, she had gotten another charge on her card. That was when the next package had been set up to start processing payments. She didn't know she had done that, though, until she had her first payment taken out of her bank account for it 2 weeks after the day that I met her. When she brought it up with the gym, they basically told her that, it was her fault for not reading the contract. And she agreed. She didn't want to cause a problem, I guess, and understood that she said to me after about it that, she should have read the contract and that was entirely her fault. So she kind of, I guess, took the L for it. The price difference between the starter package sessions and the longer term packages was pretty significant. She absolutely was not up for paying for the year-long contract. She ended up doing it, and she ended up really liking working with me, and so I think she also partially was like, "Well, I like the trainer. I signed the contract. I should have read the contract and didn't. So I guess I will just keep working with her. And we were both kind of extremely grateful that we were so compatible, because otherwise, I think the whole experience would have been a lot more stressful for her. And it already kind of was because the finances were not necessarily ruinous for her, but it was not easy. Yeah, for getting the sale, he probably would have made like $150 commission, I think. And also adding to his numbers, right? Because they have um a quota. I don't think any of the salespeople ever had any like reprimand or repercussions for any unsavory tactics. I think that they were really encouraged to just do whatever it took to get the numbers up.
Hey, editor Sean here. So I kind of forgot to record an ending for this video, but I'll leave you with a little bit of an open-ended offer. Feel free to leave a comment or message me directly. Above all, regardless of my own business, my main interest here is trying to just make fitness a little bit more accessible and a little safer for people. And I don't mean safer in terms of avoiding injury. I really mean safer in terms of not getting taken advantage of recognizing that there are honest, well-informed coaches out there who want the best for their clients, who want the best for the people that they work with. And it can be very disheartening seeing this hyper capitalist, aesthetic obsessed version of things seems to exist just to make people feel like shit in the hopes that they'll just keep pouring money into the machine to try to make that feeling of shittiness go away. It's not really how this works. Please feel free to reach out to me if you just want a little bit of advice on an experience that you've had, and just kind of want to see if what you're dealing with is kosher. Offers on the table. In the meantime, I wish you all the best of luck out there. Now go get friggin' strong.